algorithm versus this NoSQL technologies, what kind of response time we could get against, and benchmarking results, we produced them. And then they decided upon the final implementation strategy. That is where their partners are completely aware what is happening and they want to go with the best parts of the solution. So we did some kind of benchmarking. Third one is the generic one, where they don't know that they have just an idea that this could solve, and they need our advisory. One of the partners approached that their oracle is not performing very well. It is taking 25 millisecond of not 25, so 25 second to response back the results and all, and we are not sure what's happening. But when we actually went there, it was optimization problem at Oracle end itself. There was no need for NoSQL what they were claiming for. So there are three types of people which are kind of approaching us. So it is, what we are doing is we are trying to analyze and then going back with the best possible results. So to target like people, what people are industry, it is something like, I would like to say that it is difficult to explain people who are not into the industry that what they should learn. They have to really get their hands dirty to various topics. And then only they were able to realize that what's the problem we are solving for the partner and how and where. Because it is totally different. There is no one problem solution available in this market, and that is also changing very frequently. So it's a highly volatile world right now.
For both, sorry.
I just want to add, there are some clients that we have. Some know their problem, some know the solution. Some are doing like stem cells research, right? 5 years ago, women started preserving their stem cells or whatever. But we don't have solutions right now. It will happen in 10 years.
Right.
But I don't want to lose out. So a lot of our clients are like that. 2 years ago, they started acquiring thousands of servers. And they're storing every little shred of data which they can. They're not yet analyzing. And now we're going in and we're saying, okay, let's make an analytics roadmap for you, a big data roadmap for you. So over the next 2 years, what all can you do with all these thousands of servers full of data that you have? So it's not always that these clients know what they want. They just know that they need it and they will get some use for it. Let's start collecting data, and then 2 years later, when we're ready, we can start analyzing it, and by that time, we
I find it's a huge opportunity for the industry as a whole. Going from a situation where we were order taking, tell me this is what you asked, question you asked, this is what you're, you do this, and fix it. To what should I do, right? And from even from the workforce perspective, the students or people looking for new jobs, the opportunity earlier to actually see the kind of systems that the industry worked on is very poor. Today you can go to a Kaggle or whatever and just actually see real data put out by real companies and download it, take a hack at it, do something with it, and get your mind into what. So there's an opportunity to be seized. Question is, do we seize it? Does our workforce seize it? Does our academic institution seize it? Do they seize it from the MOOCs? We don't know. Are we going to seize this or not?
Do the corporate houses themselves seize it?
I don't know, because actually we have to. There are cases where we have not seized it, right? Case in point is open source. We are fantastic free riders on open source. We use it like crazy. We hardly contribute that. Are we going to seize the opportunity or not? That's the question we have to ask in the industry.
And what about Indian companies? So like you gave the example of Metascan, and there are other examples, like there's the example of Target. So what they did was that depending on user purchase, they were kind of predicting future purchases.
That was disaster, right? Yeah.
Many of them are doing it.
Yeah. So I think obviously a lot of Indian companies also would have heard of examples where people have used the data in a manner to get sustainable competitive.
Just dial, you got an example which is doing it badly, but very profitable for them. I think somebody mentioned, what you heard a year back in this space is going to get commoditized by the time you pick it up. It's moving at a pace which has never seen before.
No, but what about Indian companies actually coming to people like you and asking for a solution to get that same kind of...
So I'll give an example. Last year we sold something to the largest bank in India.
Okay.
6 months, professional services, fancy stuff, all your statements, swipe a credit card, you get right promotions, where you are, do all sorts of things. This year we're going and saying, this is open source.
You see the results, how good or bad, how big data, how you may curse it or not, when you get calls on your phone to sell you. you're getting the mortgage data point.
No,
Yeah,
telecom companies are doing it big way.
That's true, it's being used.
Banks are doing it
You see
big
the
way.
exponential
These
growth
three are
of
the
the
big
telemarketing
areas.
growth,
Yeah.
data is being used.
Yeah,
You measure it.
Yeah, I agree. I think in our experience in dealing with Indian firms, is one that traditional Indian companies don't have enough data, so you can't do anything with it. So the big data is happening in telecom, in financial services, and in newer age companies.
Retail,
E-commerce.
again, the online.
Yeah, so online. Yeah, online e-commerce, so travel portals, you've got your Flipkarts and your, all those Snapdeals. Those guys are hiring analytics professionals for the using firms providing these services. Again, it's not very sophisticated stuff. It's your predictive algorithms, what will you buy next, and all those type of things. But they are using it. So I think those are the three. I don't think really, a lot of companies are talking about big data and they're storing the data on servers. Again, I don't think really Indian companies are doing a lot with it.
We'll give our own example. When we have oodles of data on the back end, and we've had it since early 2000. So we have a lot of data. But for years we just kept it there without really knowing what to do with it. And when we started analyzing, I'll give the example of Magic Bricks. We took some of the data. Every time you search for a property and you say, I want a 2-bedroom house in this locality, these are the specs I want, and whatever you put in, we deconstructed and said that is demand. And every time you post a property and say I have a 2-bedroom in Lajpat Nagar at this price, it is supply. So we tallied supply and demand, and there was a lot of cleaning up to be done. But just about 3 years ago, we started with this process. And when we came up with these indices, what we call the proper index, we came up with indices of price trends. At one point of time, if you said that prices move, you give prices for shorter than a year, people would laugh at you. Today, every hour, every day, I can give you how price trends move.
I'm sure you're doing it perfectly right, but it is a very critical example. You can do this. Can you tell me how confident you are in that result? Can you do the standard error of that result? That's where the data scientist comes in.
Absolutely.
You have enough samples, simple basics.
Yeah.
You have enough samples. Can you compute it?
Yeah.
It's a very simple formula. You know that there exists a formula. Most database people don't.
No, that's exactly my point. You see, the thing is that, like we have done, there are a lot of companies which are now going back, dipping into your data and trying to evolve something. But to make that a practice, where at one point ERP systems was the big new thing that everybody was doing. Before that, it was something that came in the market and it happened. But right now, it is at an experimentation stage in the Indian market. And how soon that translates into big data, your proper analytics,
Just simple stats.
just simple statistics is going to take a while.
I think another thing for India is that at least amongst our clients, the same company, let's say an MNC working in the US or UK or somewhere, and in India, they are very sophisticated. The growth is very like 1-2% or whatever. They have to use analytics. They're obliged to. They're bound to. Otherwise, they can't compete. In India right now, they don't have time to.
There is no need. There's no obligation to.
Strategy teams have a mandate. How many new stores will you open? How many more subscribers will you get? Not how will you optimize them on his spending. I mean, that might be there in this thing, but it's not in his top priority. That's amongst Indian companies. That's why we as a company also, we tend to shy away from doing work in India. Not because it's lower rates and all that stuff. It's because there's too much education, it's not high priority, it's not reached that level of maturity.
When do you expect it? Is it moving in that direction?
Yeah, it is moving that direction. It's just
It's in a transformation stage, so
Yeah.
it will take some time to.
It's a long
way to go.
Like for example, I was talking to somebody at a very senior level at Airtel, and they were talking about how they're trying to implement a big data platform. And I mean, again, it's not poking holes at anybody, but some of the things he was talking about are very basic things that they're trying to do in terms of closed loop marketing, looking at prepaid accounts versus postpaid accounts, looking at tiers of that. And it felt like that's not even 101, basics where you have so much of data. But then the fundamental problem he had was to your thing, that they are right now just struggling to maintain that infrastructure for so many users who come on board and so many people who leave.
Right.
And just, the engine is so massive for them that being able to analyze the logs of call quality, for example, and then looking at satisfaction of customers based on how many dropped calls you have, and then going back and giving them redemption offers or something to retain them because you're getting ticked off to your phone that you're not getting good quality. He's saying that's that's like 3 years down the line. Right now I have some serious problems that I might have a network outage. So I'm dealing with some massive scale operation issues. Same thing with hospitals, right? We're struggling with bad needles. So talk about predicting behavior of that he and Mr. Shroff has dengue or malaria. His second order problem. First order problem is our medicine is not contaminated or
Yeah, but you see, this is the challenge. If one is always firefighting, you're not going to think for the future, and then you'll continuously be firefighting, right? So the challenge of digitization is that you can do whatever analytics you want. If you cannot exploit the results, you're not digital enough to exploit the results, you can go very sophisticated and useless stuff. So even if you do simple stuff, but if it can be exploited in operations, so what your example companies are doing are practical because that's all that they can exploit today. And only what they can exploit tomorrow, they'll do tomorrow. So they're probably taking that approach.
Yeah,
So if you predict something and I can't use it because my processes are here to use it fast enough.
Then it's sort of
Can't use it.
So the career path thing, I think it ties to if this problem kind of answers this. So I feel there is what's happening and why we are struggling here is essentially an outcome of what you asked before, which is the skills and the talent coming out and how much is the talent kind of moving up, because a lot of times these problems are solved either when you have a lot of people. So I think one word which I'm surprised didn't come up in this discussion is nobody talked the buzzword of innovation and how we're innovating in these things. So I think if you look at what's happening in India, we talked about, I kind of see there are two dimensions. One is you can go deep, and you have a lot of people who go deep in the technology, and there are some people who go very horizontal, which is I have enough, and I want to move into business analyst, I want to move into sales, I want to have this experience, and by the way, if I do all of these things, I can actually go in and decide do I want to be a CEO, if I want to go take this path, or I go deep in this thing. I think India doesn't have a lot of people who are a very strong data scientist will never be able to get to a point of writing a good business plan to convince somebody to get the money to actually solve these problems. And the difference between, I had this very interesting example about the maturity of these things. There was a customer problem which was coming from a city in the US which said we want to manage parking better and traffic better and we want to increase the monetization of this thing. We really didn't think of the original solution we proposed was what will come to your mind, which is okay, we can do these maps and this and all sorts of things. And there is this very intelligent engineer who comes and says, oh, by the way, I know how many cars on the road, I know everybody's GPS device, I can predict this thing, and if your parking meters have the location piece, I will actually move which ones people can park on based on the traffic on the road, so you can move vehicles fast. I'm like, that's awesome, because now suddenly the parking meter is dynamic. It's no more a static piece. And second, I'm going to charge based on how many parking meters are free and not. I was like, this is awesome. Now that's the application or the applied science of it, which I don't think a lot of Hadoop engineers would be able to get to that point.
No, I mean, think about India, I think Flipkart's doing a lot.
Yeah,
They're
and
doing
they're innovating. Yeah.
a lot of stuff. And the whole recommendation, the whole engine there. Like we built a e-commerce product a few years back, primarily for local markets as well as OTT. We took a startup from Bombay and used their AI technology inside it. So there is innovation. We can pick up the startups here and there and use that, but it's not enough.
Yeah,
It's just not enough. Yeah.
So we have also done something similar with ad media companies, like especially there are companies which are producing ads on the mobile phones, and based on what they have developed is, this is very unusual that while developing the application for producing ads on the tabs and the phones, they also built in the systems to consume that data at the same time. So that is using Hadoop. They are seeing that what kind of ads are getting published who and what kind of ads are getting popular. They are again reanalyzing and reproducing the ads. So it's a complete cycle they have built at one shot, but it is very rare that somebody, especially for India, somebody would build that.
Like we invested part of a investment into the OTT venture investor in this aircraft, the helicopter 3D, right? Which is now with CRPF and all that. When you think about the question you asked, land records, and they are also doing, they're now collecting data on road offline, those things on land records. But that's huge data getting collected. All kinds of uses, population, encroachment, land records, the land use. The appetite to consume is going to take some time to come. But before the appetite to consume, we have to have the ability to envision what can be done. And that's where we are today. That's why it's an opportunity.
And going with that career path thing, taking that one step forward, big data seems to be a way forward, a career path for people who are innovators at heart and who have been stuck in traditional jobs, for them to take the MOOC path or whatever and move towards big data, because that's where innovation and your dynamism has an outcome.
And you can make suggestions which can be scientifically tested.
Absolutely.
And that's an advantage. Right? And it's imaginative, of course. In the end, innovation is not something you teach. You have to do.
And that's probably, taking it back to TechGig, that's probably what we're trying to do. If you're stuck in a role and you have something where you would like to experiment, what we've been trying to do is, I think ours is very basic today, some of the coding contests and things like that. Suddenly we feel that the community out there is getting engaged, and they're getting, and the reason why we're doing this is that